I love the look of wood burning, and it's a great way to add your signature to something you've made, but as you can see from how sped up this footage is, it can take a bit of time. So I want to make myself a stamp so I can do it a little more easily. Normally these stamps would be made out of brass or steel, but I don't have the tools for that, so I want to see if I can come up with a really easy DIY method that just about anyone could do with some simple hand tools. My first instinct was to try using some wire. It's easy to get hold of, and with just some pliers you can bend it into pretty much any shape you could want. I'm using a nice thick bit of copper wire here, which I'd helpfully stored in a crinkled roll, so my first job was to straighten it out. Then I printed off my design, which is just my name, and got to work. I actually really enjoyed this process of measuring and bending and then checking against my design. I was able to get into a bit of a flow state with it. The wire was really easy to work into shape, and after half an hour or so of fiddling, I was off to what I thought was a really great start.
Alrighty, so we've got the very basics of it. It's a bit sloppy, but I think what I'm going to try and do now is neaten up some of those letters so that it's more obvious. A few of them were really tricky to do. They're just kind of like complex shapes, but proof of concept wise, you can make letters with wire. Speaking of proof of concepts, I haven't actually tested whether sticking copper wire in a soldering iron will actually burn wood, so I guess we'll get to that when we get to that. But first, I'm going to try and tidy up all of these letters and make them look a bit neater.
When I was happy with how it was looking, I twisted a bit of a stalk onto the stamp so I could fit it into the soldering iron, and it was finally time to test it out. But before we do that, I thought it would be good to have a proper stamp to compare this to, and that's where the sponsor of this video, PCBWay, comes in. You probably know PCBWay as a great way of prototyping and manufacturing PCBs, it's in the name, but you might not know about some of their other manufacturing services they provide, such as injection molding, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication, and CNC machining, which is what I'll be using. I'm totally new to the world of CNC and manufacturing, but even I could figure out how to upload my design to the website and then simply choose from a huge list of materials and get an instant quote. Then, in just a couple of days, I got a package at my door with some lovely looking stamps, one in brass and one in stainless steel. So if you need something made, either as a one-off or in bulk, that you don't have the tools to make yourself, then check out PCBWay and their manufacturing services. If you'd like to see what they've got on offer, there's a link in the description. While I waited for those real stamps to come in, I could get back to testing my DIY version, and I'm not gonna lie, I had pretty high hopes for this, which were very quickly dashed. I tried out a whole bunch of things here, including wrapping the wire around the barrel of the iron and trying to use a bolt to get some heat into the stamp, neither of which worked, of course. I even used some much thicker steel wire, which was way harder to bend and shape, to try and make a whole new stamp. It seemed kind of promising, but the stiff wire made it really hard to get the shape just right, so it came out looking really ugly, and I had to keep it pressed into the wood for ages, so the whole area ended up looking a little bit burnt.
I think the issue with both of these designs is that the heating element is like quite far up in this soldering iron, and then it's got to try and transfer that heat all the way down out to the tip. What I'm wondering is, do we just get rid of the soldering iron and try a candle instead? I'm going to test that out.
In a surprise to absolutely no one, the candle didn't work, so the next logical step was more fire, which I got in the form of my camping stove. Other than some lovely shimmering of the copper, everything came out looking like garbage, and I think it's time to finally admit that the wire just isn't going to do it. Let's have a quick look at how the proper stamps perform and see if we can't figure out something else.
Oh, that is so cool. Interesting. The brass one seems to do a lot better than the stainless steel. So, yeah, use the brass, I guess. Whoa. Well, it certainly gets hot enough. Maybe it just needed to heat up for longer. But the brass took way less time than I'd already given this.
So what have the proper stamps got that my DIY versions don't? Firstly, the stamps take up the full internal diameter of the soldering iron, but the wire is sort of just flopping around in there, so it can't grab the heat as effectively. And secondly, the stamps have a big chunk of metal that holds the heat really well, whereas the wires can cool down way too easily. So we need something that will fit the barrel of the iron, has more thermal mass than wire, and that we can shape the end of. And this bolt seems perfect for the job. I just had to work the hex key bit into the design, which you can't really see, but I'm just keeping it simple with a B.
That's really tough. And hot.
With a bit of hacksawing, then some filing, I could work the end of the bolt into the B shape, and then add the other B hole with the drill.
Oh my god, I've just realized I need to do it mirror image. And that's not mirror image. Oh no.
Luckily, I had another bolt that fit the iron, so I could go through all of these steps again, and this time I was very careful to make sure my B was mirrored. Making this bolt version is definitely more involved than making the wire one. It needs a bit more grunt work and a couple more tools, but the real question is, does it work?
Whoa! It's turned blue! That is wild. I guess it means it's probably hot enough. Hey! We finally got one to work. That's kinda cool! I think I didn't quite make it flat. I think you can just see on the round bits of the B sort of rolls off a bit. So I think that's why I'm getting these issues of not quite getting the full beat. But I mean, if you're better at filing than me, which wouldn't be hard, I think that might actually just do the ticket. Hey, we finally did it. Ooh. So I think you want to be kind of quick with it, and by rolling it around you sort of get rid of any of those uneven bits. Yeah, look at that. Perfect. That is so good. I guess now we've got to put it on something.
After some long and hard thought, I put it on the closest thing I could find. Well, we certainly went through a bit of a process to get here and explored some dead ends, but with just a bolt, some basic hand tools, and a bit of patience, you too can make a wood-burning stamp so you can leave your mark on the things that you've made. Thank you so much to the channel members for supporting what I do, and thanks to you for watching. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I hope to see you again soon.